Hi, I'm the Poly Tipster. This is part two of a series I'm creating where I talk about coming out as a polyamorous person when you're in a family. If you haven't listened to part one, go back and listen to part one, as this is simply a continuation of part one. There are 6 parts to the entire series, so be sure to look for the other videos. And just, in all fairness here, just full disclosure, my family, we are not completely out. We are out with some people, but we are not out with other groups. So I kind of see our circle of friends. We have multiple circles of friends. We've got friends that we've had since childhood, my husband particularly. We've got friends that we know through work, and we've got friends that the kids' parents, um, the kids' friends' parents. We've made friends over the years with some of those parents. And so ours is kind of this hybrid coming out. We made some choices that my husband, for his own reasons, did not want to tell some of his childhood friends. I really think he was afraid he was going to lose them or be judged or something. But we've lived with that for many years, with that reality. So that particular circle, which is a really big circle, that circle of friends isn't officially been made aware of our family situation. We've told them we're roommates. That's how they refer to us. I think on some level those folks know, some of them do, but out of respect or courtesy or just it's none of their business, nobody brings it up. Um, the other circle of friends that are a little bit newer, um, those folks are the parents of our kids' friends. And early, very like within weeks of getting to know some of these parents and their kids, I made a decision that I wanted those parents to opt out basically if they wanted to. So when I felt the time was right, it was usually after about 3 or 4 encounters with their kids. I asked to go to lunch with the mom, and I would tell her. I would tell her about our life, and I would tell her the reason I'm telling you is because you do have kids, and I want to make sure that our kids that their hearts aren't broken down the road if you should find this out about us. And I got great response doing it that way. Um, I mean, overwhelmingly great. One of the mothers, she immediately went home, and I noticed on her Facebook, she changed her status to something like friend of a poly family or something like that. And that's worked out really well. We've known them for many, many years, and the kids are growing up together, and they've provided incredible community and support to us. And now that we're involved in a lawsuit, they're there for us. They write letters for us. They're willing to be witnesses on the stand for us. So for that situation, that worked out better than we hoped it ever would. Um, we've had friends that we've told that weren't part of my husband's big circle group of friends. And, there's been kind of a mixed response with some of those friends. I would put them in a different circle. Some of those folks were just kind of ho hum about it, like, and it wasn't like, we made like this really big deal, like, we need to sit you down and tell you this. This is kind of a really big deal. We didn't do anything like that. It was a more casual, more, you know, um, like we might these were newer friends. I might say something like, "Oh, I need to check with my partner, but my husband's okay with it." I might say something like that, and the person would be like, "Oh, you have a husband and a partner?" And then it would go from there. Um, you have to kind of weigh each situation as you come across, but some situations do merit a big sit down and a talk and fielding questions and addressing and answering all the things that are important to your family especially. They're going to have questions, and you have to kind of see it from their point of view. Anything that's new and different and they don't understand it, they've never been involved with it, they don't hear about it much. It's fair to sit down with somebody like that and field those questions. So um, so that's kind of how all that falls. With our family, we are completely out with our family. Well, I'm out with my family, and my partner is out with his family, But my husband has a mother who's ill, and his father passed away a long time ago. So my husband's not out with his mother. She's been in a nursing home for many years, and she's been very ill for many years. So he kind of made that choice not to put that on her shoulders. Um, and I think that was fine. I think that was a good choice. My partner, the way his family found out was not of our choosing. His family, he was outed to his family by his ex-wife. And that was not how we would have done it. So, any case, that kind of leads me into the next slide here. Um, so, in his case, he actually did lose a family member as a result of them finding out about it. And it was someone he wasn't particularly close to over the years, but it's still, it's still a bit of a kick in the pants for him. The remainder of his family doesn't seem to have any problem with it at all and is very accepting. And I've met them, and they seem to accept me and have told me over the years how wonderful it is that he has me in his life. So, that worked out for those members. But that is definitely a downside when you do come out to friends and family. There's a possibility, even people that you don't think are going to have a problem with it, there's a possibility you could lose a friend or lose a family member. So you kind of have to weigh that and decide, are you willing to take that risk? And it's a powder keg. It's a boiling pot there as you go through life and you're keeping this a secret. And sometimes all you can think about is how you just want to relieve that pressure and tell somebody. So, you just have to weigh living the secretive life with how much can you put up with that pressure. And yeah. So for my family's just super cool. My mom, my sister, my brother, everybody knows. And whenever I get Christmas presents coming from that side of the family, they always remember to include my partner and his children. It's wonderful. I've got this amazing support. And all of us, none of us have family close. So, for some of this stuff, telling a distant family member, maybe you lose that family member, but they're not really in your life every day anyway. And that's kind of our situation. So, in any case, keep that in mind. You might do a little bit of reading on what kinds of things you can do to minimize the impact of losing family and friends. The next big thing, which this is a big concern for us, is impact a job. You could affect your job, and it might be not be anything direct. Like you might not get fired from your job, but if you're looking to get promoted, if you're looking to move up the ranks, there's a fair degree of you kind of need to blend or mesh with the people around you, and people, no matter what they say, they can, monogamous people can feel quite threatened by someone who's polyamorous. The term is a little strange for mainstream. It's getting out there a little more and more, but it's still a little bit of a strange term. And so what people tend to go to is they go to swinger, they go to open relationship, they think sex. That's pretty much the top of their mind when you say the word polyamory or you talk about, they think polygamy, they think deep religious beliefs that maybe think sister wives kind of thing, because that's what's been out in the mainstream. So I would say there's very little reason to come out to coworkers or your boss or anybody like that, or HR. I mean, it's what goes on in your bedroom is none of their business. The way we handle this with our jobs is they know that at least me and my husband, we're a married couple. They know about that because that was the status quo prior to getting into a relationship with our partner. And our partner is just a roommate. We live in a very expensive town, And I think people understand that. They understand that you can get a lot more for your resources when you're pooling together with a roommate. So that's what we tell our jobs. We tell them that we have a roommate, and that's worked for us. Um, there is definitely an impact because we're not out. There's definitely an impact um, to things like going to the Christmas party. You know, my partner is actually not my husband's partner. They are friends. They're very good friends, but they're not sexually or intimate partners at all. Um, but my partner, he can only bring one person to his company Christmas party. So, you know, that means he either if he takes me to the company Christmas party, well, I'm a married woman in the eyes of his company. If he takes my husband to the Christmas party, well, it leaves me at home alone, which is fine. You know, I'm okay with that actually. Um, but he kind of likes the idea of being able to just go to a party and bring the person that he loves to the party. So the way we sort of get around that is we just don't go to the Christmas party. And we've done things like take a cruise at that time of year. And we'll go to dinner at the cruise and we'll sit down to dinner, me and my partner. It usually is just the two of us. And we will present as partners. So we kind of get that feeling of being able to tell people about our relationship in a celebratory manner, but we don't do it in a way that we feel like could impact our job. So, if you have any comments about that, I'd love to hear stories about people who did come out to coworkers and how that went, and if they felt like it did impact their job. I'm not sure how you would ever know. I don't think that HR or your boss is going to say, "Oh no, Joe, you didn't get that promotion because I don't approve of your lifestyle. I don't approve of who you are." I think it would be more along the lines of kind of a subtle thing where it would just be chalked up to your performance. But that's the other thing. It's like if you tell people where your income and your career opportunity is at stake, you're never really going to know why you didn't get that promotion. Is it because I told them, or is it because I really do need to do something to improve my performance? So I personally would never tell anybody on the job. Um, so yeah. Discrimination. Yeah, there is plenty of that. Um, there's I mean, this kind of breaks my heart a little bit. I think that the gay and lesbian community, they fought the good fight and they have come very far. Now they are enjoying some of the privileges that mainstream vanilla couples have enjoyed forever. And I think polyamory, we're probably decades behind them. But what breaks my heart is that there are some people in that movement who really want to distance themselves from polyamory, and it's a shame because some of the discrimination that they had to suffer for decades is discrimination that we in the poly community are currently experiencing, and we're very keen on making sure that we don't. I mean, for us, I guess in some ways it's a little bit easier to pass because oftentimes you'll see whatever a male and a female coupled up, and maybe you won't see the other partner in the mix all the time, or maybe you can pass as roommates, and people's brains don't always go immediately to, oh, they must be bisexual or gay, or they must be polyamory because of how our mix works. But definitely be sure we do experience discrimination. And where it does come out, and in our case, it comes out if you ever have to go and fight any sort of legal matter, especially with regard to children. We will never be able to share insurance with each other. Not until this all changes and multiple marriage is a thing, which I don't know if that's ever going to be a thing. Um, we have to explain just the most basic things about how we live if we're involved in a legal matter, as I was saying. Um, we are we're going to have someone visit our home. just to make sure there's no wild sex parties going on, I guess. Um, the claims of the other side are that we are a danger to the children. There's an assumption that, oh, well, they might be a danger to the children. So for discrimination matters, I find discrimination is something that if it impacts your pocketbook, if it impacts your upward mobility, but if you were somebody who was all other things being equal in just a vanilla relationship, and these things didn't impact your pocketbook or your upward mobility, then you're being discriminated against. That's my litmus test for, is it discrimination or not? And yeah, so telling people, having your job find out, having the ex find out, getting dragged into court, all of this is related to discrimination, and people's attitudes about whether or not you are um, you are deserving of of even just being. So it's distressing at times. So yeah, the child custody or divorce issues. I'm not going to dive deep on that in this particular video because we're just talking about, should you come out or should you not? But in our case, it's huge. Um, Coming out to the ex-wife proved to be a mixed blessing, as I mentioned earlier. Um, we are in a battle to defend ourselves and our lifestyle after being in this relationship, after being in this family for years. And I think when you do come out, you're going to have to weigh that. Um, we're talking about coming out to your job, coming out to your family and friends, but there's also coming out to the ex-wife or the ex-husband. And I've got kind of a little test that I run through my head as to whether or not you should think about coming out. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. So, the other thing I've experienced with coming out, there was a friend. It was a parent. She was she was kind of a friend of one of the other parents already that we're involved with, and I was over at her house having some tea and talking to her, and it's just always weird. You tell somebody, oh, hey, I'm whatever. Yeah, I'm in this alternative relationship setup. And with polyamory, like I said earlier, a lot of people's brains go straight to sex. They immediately think orgy. They think you're swingers. They think all kinds of, I don't know. They think all kinds of strange things. But it's always involved with sex. And this particular woman, it was so interesting to me. So she's actually an attorney by trade, and we were having tea and we're talking about our kids and my stepkids, her kid, and suddenly she starts to tell me all about how she is um, a dominatrix, and I was just like, oh, okay, and I thought to myself, if I was just like any other parent, I wonder if she would have brought all this up. But she was really interested in having me talk to my partners and my partner and my husband and inviting them to her dungeon, which just completely took me aback because I mean, we are not, I guess that's just not who we are. We are not very interesting, is what I tell people. I mean, not to other people. We're not interesting in that way. And, it really does speak to where someone's brain goes when you tell them you are in a multi-partner relationship. And I don't know. I don't quite know how to dispel that. I usually am just pretty upfront with them and say, oh, well, oh, that's great. I mean, I don't care that she's a dominatrix and she has a dungeon. That's great. Good for her. But I kind of wish there wasn't this assumption that I would be interested in going to visit her dungeon, um, because I'm not, and neither are my partners. I mean, they were mildly like, "Oh, can we go watch?" They were sort of laughing that off, but as a real thing, they were like, "No, no, I don't think would want to go do that." So, and I'm not judging. I know there's all whatever, all flavors of sexuality and all flavors of partnering up. But I think, to me, I think that that's a bit of a myth that polyamorous people right out the gate are highly interested in very sexualized things, and that's the first topic of conversation to pursue with them. I think we're just normal people, and relationships are difficult, and multiple relationships are very difficult. Um, so yeah, that's anyway. Um, enough said on that. Uh, so yeah, so the other thing about coming out and telling somebody, you might not be aware of this, but the few people that I have come out to and spoken to, I kind of noticed this trend of like believing that maybe I'm trying to sell them on polyamory and I'm trying to get them to do it. Almost like I believe polyamory is better than monogamy. And it's like, uh, the way I see it is I don't care if you're somebody who likes girls with red hair. I am not going to try and sell you on blondes. It's just a preference. And if you're in a monogamous relationship, I see it that way. It's like I think if you were interested in being polyamorous or exploring polyamory, that is your own personal journey, and it doesn't have anything to really do with me other than, if you have questions and I can be of help in that way, I'm happy to answer questions, but I don't really have an interest in selling it. But I do think that you're going to get people who feel very threatened that you represent some sort of into monogamy, or that, a lot of people, I mean, me included, we have our demons when it comes to feeling insecure about, does our partner love us, and will they always be there for us? And I think everybody feels that way. I think that's really human to feel that way. And you are symbolic of that threat in a really big way. And so I think if you're aware of that, if you're aware of that going into any kind of conversation about polyamory and that you are polyamorous, I think that that can do quite a bit to help dispel that. I know when I talk to people about me being polyamorous, I usually put a caveat in there for them, and I might say something like, hey, this is me, and I I don't really think that it's for everybody. I think I think it's very hard to do, and I think some people, who've managed to make it work, it's great. I think there's plenty of people who try it and don't make it work. Um, and I certainly don't think that monogamous people need to stop being monogamous. I think it's fine. So I try to do something like that. I try to say something like that when I'm having somewhere in the conversation. And I don't know if it helps or not, but just be aware that you are a threat. And yeah, thanks for listening. Be on the lookout for the third video in this series on coming out.